squeezed. So I will actually skip some parts of what I was going to say. I will also, we can skip this one straight away. What sign shall I give when I want you to change? I say next one, please. So now we can go back. That was just a practice. I would like very quickly to explain why I think this topic is very important. Why we need to combine agrarian studies and youth studies to understand the situation and the problems of rural youth. Then we have to speak a bit about how we define youth, because you will not get stuck in the definitions. I would just like to ask, since we already had examples where youth was defined as up to 40 or 45, who in the room is, say, between 35 and 45 years old? Would you mind raising your hands? In what way would you consider yourself a youth? Or I call you, or the government calls you a youth, which means you are not yet an adult. This is actually getting to the core of the problem. Are we helping young people by pushing the boundaries of their age up until they could also have grandchildren at age 45 and say, no, you still are not an adult, you still are not a full member of our society? Or are we doing something wrong with that? So we should discuss this. Put this on the agenda. And what do we actually know about rural young people today? This is very important because the donors suddenly are getting interested in issues of rural youth and land. And for those of you whose work depends on getting some money out of those donors, you also have to think very hard. Are you going to just follow the donors, who on the whole are rather ignorant about these issues, but would not like to be thought of as ignorant? They tend to feel that they understand what the problems are and what the solutions are, and if you take their money, you're supposed to go along with that? Or are you going to try to lead the donors into more productive directions and into new ways of thinking about these problems? And that's also, of course, a place where research can take a role. Then I would like to think, what is it that really becomes a barrier to young people's entry into farming? Then to look at, from what we know in various countries, who are the new young farmers, where do they come from? Some are continuous, meaning they take over farms from their parents. Others are newcomers who don't come from farming backgrounds at all. And then towards the end, when we're all getting extremely hungry, we'll try to pull out some conclusions about that. I was going to say something about my interest in this topic, but that's actually more interesting for me than for you. I would just say, it was already mentioned that I have been involved in this research NGO called Akatiga based in Bandung. Well, Akatiga is carrying out the Indonesian part of the research project that you see at the top there, becoming a young farmer, young people's pathways into farming in Canada, China, India, and Indonesia, which we have just started. Canada is there because the money comes from Canada, but actually the problems in Canada are in some interesting ways very similar to problems that you see in Asia, in that very different context. And the only other thing I'd like to mention is something new. At the very bottom you see something called the Emancipatory Rural Politics Initiative. Well, I was struck by the remark of our friend Lorenzo from the Philippines about recent political trends in the Philippines with a kind of re-emergence of authoritarian forms of politics and government. We are actually a bunch of colleagues and I are very concerned about these issues around the world. This is why did rural people vote for Trump, for example? Why is it that rural people whose lives are being smashed to pieces by current neoliberal policies continue to vote and be led along by the ideas of authoritarian populist leaders who tell them that the problem is always outsiders, others, Muslims, Christians, whatever, rather than developing some more genuinely emancipatory form of politics. And we actually put out a small grants program. We offered very small research grants of up to $2,000 to encourage particularly young people to do research on these problems. And we got 426 applications from around the world, from Europe, from the Americas, from Asia, from Africa. So it really is a problem that is of concern to a lot of people. Please go to the website and you can see what we are trying to do. Okay, next one please. We all know smallholder farmers. There are a lot of them in the world. They cultivate probably about half of all the world's farmland. They are 98% of all the farm units. The 2% are corporate industrial farmlands, plantations, so on. A great number of these farms are smaller than 2 hectares. They are very productive. They produce much more per hectare than big industrial farms. And this is something which technocrats in universities like the university here cannot understand. They still seem to think that for efficiency reasons, small farmers should disappear and be replaced by industrial business units and so on. And most of us, I think, would quite like to support the continuation of smallholder farming in the world. Partly because it is, on the whole, more environmentally friendly, not always, but also because in this world where chronic unemployment, especially of young people, is becoming a reality all over the world, smallholder farming is still the world's single biggest source of employment and livelihoods. So if those farms disappear, what sort of jobs are all the people, the children of those former smallholders going to get? So, next one please. We all know, it has been mentioned already, that on the whole, the farming population is getting older and older for various reasons. One reason is just that with better health, people are living longer, so farmers get older than they used to. Another is that their children sometimes are unwilling or unable to take over farms from them. Many of these older farmers also don't want their children to be farmers. This was also mentioned this morning. So this has led to, next one please, the idea that there's some kind of crisis going on in the regeneration of farming around, smallholder farming around the world. Will there be a next generation of smallholder farmers? Because if there won't be, if no young people are interested to become farmers, then we just have to give up and we can give all the land over to the corporations to feed the world in just junk. Now, many NGOs have taken this on. It's been in the Indonesian newspapers, the result of research from Oxfam and others. There is this crisis of regeneration in farming in Indonesia because young people don't want to be farmers. The problem with that is, and this is my first main point, the fact that young people in secondary school, for example, if you ask them, do you want to be a farmer when you grow up, they say no. This should not be taken as a prediction that those people will not become farmers. When you think about it, it's rather obvious, but I will just give you an example. Myself, for 30 years I've been a teacher. My mother and father were teachers. My father never wanted to be a teacher. He wanted to be a researcher. My mother did not, she wanted to be an actress. I saw my parents suffering as teachers, and from an early age I had no idea what I wanted to be. But I said to myself, whatever happens to me in my life, I will never be a teacher. Another example could be, in Indonesia there are about 10,000 dentists. I have not interviewed them all, but I met some. My teeth are continually having problems. And I met a lot of dental students as well. Not one of the people I met, when you asked them, when you were in high school, did you plan to be a dentist? No! I wanted to be a doctor. but they couldn't get into medical school, so the second I don't want to be a farmer. It's the same thing. I want to be the president. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. But most of these young kids are not going to be able to become lawyers and doctors. And even if they get into nursing school, they will probably not be able to get jobs as nurses, or not for a very long time. So many of them in the end will be farmers. We are starting to talk to the parents of a lot of young farmers, so the people who are now 50 years old and farming. You ask them, when you were little, did you want to be a farmer? No! So it's actually not something new. Okay. However, next one please. In some regions, certainly, there is a problem. Here is a picture of an abandoned farmhouse in Japan, because the old people had their children didn't want to take over, even their land is no longer being farmed. And the next one. This is, I'm not Dutch, but I've lived in the Netherlands for 30 years. Here is abandoned farmhouses in the Netherlands. If I had had the house on the left, I think I would have abandoned it too. But the one on the right, you see, is a beautiful traditional dairy farmer's house, where this is the house, and because the cows have to go inside in the winter, it's integrated with a big barn for the cows, and under the roof the hay is stored that feeds them, the sidings that feeds them through the winter. Beautiful house, but you see it's been abandoned so long the ivy is growing all over the windows. So the land is not unused, because land is extremely valuable in Holland, fertile and productive. So what happens is, when the children don't want to take over, the land gets sold, and who can buy it? The biggest farmers. They're the ones who can go to the bank and get an even bigger loan to buy land.